On a quiet summer evening in 1986, a 17-year-old girl named Tiffany Daniels left her job at a local theater in Pensacola, Florida. She waved goodbye to her coworkers, promising to see them the next day. She got into her car, drove off, and vanished. Days later, her vehicle was found abandoned on a remote stretch of beach. The keys were still in the ignition. Her belongings were untouched. But Tiffany Daniels was never seen again. This is just one of thousands of unsolved disappearances haunting America. Cases where people simply vanish without a trace, leaving behind desperate families, baffled investigators, and endless speculation. Tonight, on Chilling Mysteries, we're diving into the most perplexing vanishings that have confounded authorities for decades. These stories are riddled with dead ends, bizarre clues, and chilling theories. But one thing unites them all: the agonizing absence of answers. Let's start in the heart of the Midwest, in the small town of Springfield, Missouri. It's June 7, 1992. Graduation celebrations are in full swing, and three women, Susie Streeter, her mother Cheryl Levitt, and friend Stacy McCall, plan a sleepover after a night of parties. By the next morning, all three are gone. The only traces left behind are a broken porch light, their purses, and an eerie message on the answering machine. The Springfield 3 case remains one of the most baffling disappearances in American history. Friends arriving at the Levitt home the next day found no sign of forced entry, no evidence of a struggle. All of the women's cars were in the driveway. Their personal belongings, purses, keys, cigarettes, were still inside. A glass lampshade on the porch light was shattered. The most haunting clue was the strange message left on the answering machine, which was accidentally erased by a friend before police could hear it. To this day, no one knows what happened to Susie, Cheryl, or Stacy. Theories have ranged from abduction to involvement in a drug ring, but every lead has gone cold. More than 30 years later, their families still wait for answers. Let's travel back to 1971, to a case that has become the stuff of legend. On Thanksgiving Eve, a man calling himself Dan Cooper boarded a flight from Portland to Seattle. He handed a note to the flight attendant, claiming he had a bomb. In exchange for $200,000 and parachutes, he released the hostages and jumped from the plane into the stormy Washington night. Despite an unprecedented manhunt, neither Cooper nor most of the ransom money were ever found. The case of D.B. Cooper is the only unsolved skyjacking in American history. Theories about his fate range from a successful escape to a fatal landing in the dense forests below. Every few years, the FBI receives new tips, but the truth remains elusive. But not all disappearances are the work of criminal masterminds or daring thieves. Some cases seem to defy logic entirely. Take the disappearance of Brandon Swanson, a 19-year-old from Marshall, Minnesota. On May 14, 2008, Brandon crashed his car into a ditch after a night out. He called his parents for help, but they couldn't find him. As he spoke with his father, Brandon suddenly exclaimed, "Oh, shit," and the line went dead. Despite extensive searches, no trace of Brandon has ever been found. His phone was never recovered, and the landscape where he vanished is eerily flat and open, offering few hiding places. Theories abound. Did he fall into a river? Did he encounter foul play? Or did he simply walk into the darkness, never to return? These are the cases that keep detectives awake at night. Unsolved disappearances don't just haunt the families. They haunt entire communities, reminding us how fragile and fleeting our grip on safety can be. Every day, people slip through the cracks, leaving behind nothing but questions. Let's move to the Pacific Northwest, to the dense forests of Oregon. On November 25, 1978, 8-year-old Martin Allen disappeared during a family outing in the Tillamook State Forest. One moment he was playing with his cousins near a logging road, the next, he was gone. Searchers combed the area for weeks, using helicopters, dogs, and volunteers. They found only a single footprint, believed to be Martin's, near a stream. Decades later, no other evidence has ever surfaced. Was Martin the victim of an opportunistic predator, or did he simply wander too far and succumb to the elements? The lack of clues is what makes this case so chilling. In urban areas, disappearances can be just as baffling. In 2004, 21-year-old Maura Murray left her dorm room at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. She emailed her professors about a family emergency, packed her car, and drove north toward New Hampshire. Hours later, her car was found crashed on a rural road in Haverhill. Witnesses reported seeing a young woman near the vehicle, but by the time police arrived, Maura was gone. Her credit cards, cell phone, and most of her belongings were left behind. The area was thoroughly searched, but no trace of Maura has ever been found. Online sleuths have dissected every aspect of this case. Was she running from something, or someone? Did she vanish intentionally, or was she the victim of foul play? The Maura Murray case has become one of the most intensely debated mysteries on the internet, but despite thousands of tips, the truth remains hidden. Sometimes, entire families disappear, leaving behind scenes that suggest something deeply sinister. In 2010, the Jamison family, Bobby, Sherilyn, and their 6-year-old daughter Madison, set out to look at a plot of land in rural Oklahoma. Days later, their truck was found abandoned on a remote dirt road. Inside, police found the family's IDs, wallets, phones, and $32,000 in cash. The Jamisons' dog was still in the vehicle, barely alive. It wasn't until 4 years later that hunters stumbled upon the family's skeletal remains, less than 3 miles from where the truck was found. The cause of death could not be determined. Theories around the Jamison case run the gamut, from murder-suicide to drug involvement, to cult activity, and even paranormal explanations. But no theory has ever been proven, and the family's demise remains a mystery. Let's look at another haunting case: Brian Schaefer, a medical student at Ohio State University. On April 1, 2006, Brian went out with friends to celebrate the start of spring break. He was last seen on security cameras entering the Ugly Tuna Saloon bar in Columbus. He never exited, at least, not on any camera. No one has seen or heard from him since. His phone, credit cards, and bank accounts have never been used. The bar's only exits led to busy streets or a construction site. How can someone disappear from a crowded bar in the middle of a city, leaving no trace? To this day, Brian's disappearance is one of the most mystifying urban vanishings in American history. His father never stopped searching, but he died in a freak accident just 2 years later, never knowing what happened to his son. Sometimes, the circumstances are even more chilling. In 2002, 14-year-old Elizabeth Smart was abducted from her bedroom in Salt Lake City. For 9 months, she was held captive by a religious fanatic and his wife, just miles from her home. Her case is one of the rare examples where the missing is found alive, but her story underscores the terror and uncertainty that grips families when a loved one vanishes. For every Elizabeth Smart who returns, there are thousands who do not. The pain of not knowing is almost universally described as worse than death. For the families of the missing, every day is a limbo of hope and agony. Consider the story of Kyron Horman, a 7-year-old boy who disappeared from his elementary school in Portland, Oregon, in 2010. His stepmother said she saw him walking down the hall toward his classroom. He was never seen again. The school was searched from top to bottom, the grounds combed by hundreds of volunteers, but Kyron was simply gone. The case has spawned countless theories, from abduction to family involvement, but no arrests have ever been made. His face still haunts missing child posters across the Pacific Northwest. In some cases, the missing seem to have vanished in plain sight. Take the case of Jason Jolkowski, a 19-year-old from Omaha, Nebraska. On June 13, 2001, Jason was supposed to walk 7 blocks to meet a coworker for a ride to work. He never arrived, and was never seen again. The walk was through a residential neighborhood, in broad daylight. No witnesses, no evidence, no signs of a struggle. Jason's parents established Project Jason, an organization to help families of the missing, but their own questions remain heartbreakingly unanswered. What makes these cases so compelling is not just the mystery, but the sense of injustice. In a world of DNA, surveillance cameras, and digital footprints, how can people still vanish without a trace? Are we dealing with criminal masterminds, random acts of violence, or something even more sinister? Each case is a puzzle with missing pieces, a chilling reminder that some secrets refuse to be revealed. Sometimes, the clues left behind are far more disturbing than the absence itself. In 1974, 12-year-old Janelle Matthews disappeared from her home in Greeley, Colorado, after performing in a Christmas concert. Her father returned home to an empty house and found the TV on, but Janelle was gone. For decades, the case remained cold. Then, in 2019, Janelle's remains were discovered by construction workers. The investigation led to the arrest of a former Idaho gubernatorial candidate, Steve Pankey, who had inserted himself into the case over the years. Pankey was eventually convicted of kidnapping and murder, bringing some closure to Janelle's family after more than 35 years. But for most families, the wait never ends. Let's not forget the chilling series of disappearances along rural highways, known as the Highway of Tears. In British Columbia, Canada, but with echoes in American cases like the Texas killing fields, dozens of young women, many indigenous, have vanished while hitchhiking or walking along desolate stretches of road. Some bodies have been found, many have not. The cases are often linked by patterns of neglect, racism, and lack of resources. Authorities believe that some of the disappearances are the work of serial killers, but systemic failures have allowed these cases to remain unsolved for decades. Serial predators aren't the only threat. Sometimes, disappearances are connected to larger patterns of crime, human trafficking, organized crime, or domestic violence. Each year, thousands of people in the United States are reported missing. Most are found, but a significant number are never seen again. The National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, or NamUs, estimates that more than 600,000 people go missing in the U.S. annually. While most cases are resolved, tens of thousands remain open, each one a haunting mystery. The psychological toll on families is immense. Many describe living with a constant ache, a gnawing uncertainty that never fades. They become investigators, advocates, and sometimes amateur detectives. They chase down leads, organize searches, and keep their loved ones' stories alive in the media. For some, like the parents of Lauren Spirer, a 20-year-old who vanished in Bloomington, Indiana, in 2011, the search becomes a lifelong mission. Lauren was last seen walking home from a night out with friends. Surveillance footage shows her leaving a bar, but she never made it back to her apartment. Despite massive searches and national attention, Lauren's fate remains unknown. Every unsolved disappearance leaves a scar, not just on the families, but on communities and investigators. Law enforcement agencies often face criticism for missteps, lost evidence, or lack of urgency in the early hours of a case. In some instances, crucial mistakes have let vital clues slip away. But even with the best efforts, some cases seem destined to remain unsolved, their secrets locked away forever. What drives someone to vanish? For some, it's a desire to start over, to escape abusive situations, or to break free from overwhelming circumstances. For others, it's a random encounter with evil, a predator lurking in plain sight. And sometimes, it's simply the wrong place at the wrong time, a moment's lapse that changes everything. The rise of true crime podcasts, documentaries, and online sleuthing communities has brought renewed attention to these cold cases. In recent years, amateur detectives have helped crack previously unsolvable mysteries. New forensic technology, including genetic genealogy, has identified victims and brought killers to justice. But for every solved case, dozens more remain shrouded in darkness. So what can we do? As a true crime community, we can keep these stories alive. We can amplify the voices of families, demand accountability from authorities, and support organizations dedicated to finding the missing. We can refuse to let these names fade into obscurity. If you have information about any of the cases we've discussed tonight, no matter how small or insignificant it may seem, contact your local authorities or organizations like NamUs, Project Jason, or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Even the smallest clue can break a case wide open. America's unsolved disappearances are more than just stories. They're tragedies that tear at the very fabric of society. Every vanished person was someone's child, sibling, or friend. Their stories deserve to be told. Their mysteries deserve to be solved. Thank you for joining us tonight on Chilling Mysteries. If you found these stories as haunting and compelling as we do, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and share your thoughts. Which disappearance chills you the most? Do you have theories about what happened in any of these cases? Your voice could be the one that finally brings someone home. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay curious, and never stop searching for the truth. Some mysteries may never be solved, but that won't stop us from trying.